Dahmer, he attempted himself to find alternative behaviors before he escalated. He would take mannequins from stores and have them in his bed, in his closet, and he cuddled with them, which Dahmer said all he wanted was someone to cuddle with.
It's Behavior Bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. Welcome back to this week's episode of Behavior Bitches. Today we have an exciting guest. As per usual, I only pick exciting guests. So if you're used to me saying that, it's because I choose the guest. So our guest today is very exciting. But before I get into our guest, you know I have to get some reinforcement for myself to keep going. Putting a podcast out, guys, is hard work. The amount that goes into reaching out to the guest or the guest reaching out to you, doing the pre-interview, trying to navigate your schedules, writing the outlines. There's just so much that goes into it. And then talk about once we have the guest here on the day of, the amount of cords and cameras and monitors and it's really something else. And we've definitely made it harder for ourselves since making it a video podcast, which hopefully you guys are enjoying on YouTube. So by the time we get here, it's a big deal. So this reinforcement that you guys leave me means a lot, even if it's only 4 words, like today's review that I'm about to read. Today's review is coming in hot from Mrs. Porky. That's Mrs. with a Z, or Mr.'s Porky, 2 Y's. The title is Yes, 5 stars, and it says cutthroat and resourceful. I like that to the point, and I will take it. Cutthroat is something that I have not been told that I am, but I like it. It sounds like a baddie kind of vibe to have. So thank you so much for leaving that review. Everyone else, go right now. Leave a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast app. Also, the cool thing now with Spotify, which I have been following a lot with podcasts that I listen to, is you could leave comments on individual episodes, which is very cool. So if you really enjoy an episode or there was something you want to hear more of, leave it on the Spotify app. Wherever you leave the commentary, it makes us excited to know that people are listening, even though don't worry, we're following that data. We're behavior analysts, but that's that. All right. So into our guest today. Our guest's name is Presley Wanner. She lives in Fargo, North Dakota. Right before the show, I was like, let me just ask, like, where do you live again? Because we met a while ago. This is also a very hard person to track down. Okay. She is very busy and her hours to reach her are at 11 p.m. So the fact that we're here at noon Dallas time, this is a big deal. We should be excited. She's definitely created an establishing operation because she's hard to reach. All right. So Presley Wanner is a BCBA in autism treatment from Fargo, North Dakota. I repeated that twice. Now you really get it. Prior to her training in behavior analysis, she received her master's degree in forensic psychology. Cool. When I saw she did forensics, I reached out to her and I was like, I must have you on the show. Her areas of special interest include psychopathy, sex offenses, and criminal justice reform. Presley has also received formal education in behavioral crime analysis and behavioral threat assessment and management. When not working, she enjoys watching true crime and horror with her cats, Jezebel and Lilith. Is that something like crime related?
Technically like a demon.
Oh, Martha's on the side saying you don't get it because you're Jewish. Oh, we don't deal with demons. The Jews don't deal. No, I'm just kidding. Martha's like, you don't get that because you're Jewish on the side. I love it. Okay, I get it. LOL. Okay. And Jezebel, is that also something I don't get?
Yeah, that's biblical. Yeah.
Are you biblical?
She was wife of queen, and she was known as a concubine, and so she was murdered through defenestration, I believe.
What's defenestration?
She was thrown out a window.
Oh my gosh, it's thrown out a window.
We use it as like slang.
Oh, Martha says she uses that slang for whore. Like that's what Jezebel.
Yeah, yep.
You know what? I hope you don't judge me for not understanding these names because let me tell you, when I take my dog Pavlov somewhere and I say the name, if I go to the vet or I go to anywhere and I'm like, yeah, his name's Pavlov. This actually happened with someone I was talking to on a dating app. like he was saying something, and then we were actually talking on the phone, and he was like, yeah, like I was in the military, I trained dogs. I was like, my dog's name is Pavlov. He's like, okay. And I was like,
Oh,
my dog's name is Pavlov. He's like, oh, cool. I have a dog too.
oh,
I was like, number one, this is over. Number two, like I like judge people if
yes.
they don't understand the name. I'm like, oh, you miss like how cute and funny I am in my reference there. So I hope you don't judge me. And I will stop judging people because of I see that I didn't get this joke. All right, so let's get to know you a little bit. We're gonna start off with a little bit of a mix of one of our getting to know you segments. And this one is a little bit of this or that / getting into forensics. So I want to know, would you rather interview, if you could, would you rather interview Bundy or Dahmer?
Dahmer.
Dahmer. Okay, that makes sense according to your presentation. All right, are you a Dateline or 2020 girl?
Ooh, I gotta say 2020.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why? You don't like Lester Holt?
I do. I am a fan of Lester Holt, but I don't know. Maybe it's a nostalgic thing. We watched 2020 when I was a kid, and that's always what I've watched.
Yeah, no, I always watch with my parents too.
Dateline does have some good segments. Dateline does have some good segments.
Yeah, no, I'll watch either. Like to me, they're like equals. But
Yeah.
I just like for some reason Dateline's in my repertoire. Like I know it comes out on like Friday, so like Saturday night I'll watch it.
David Muir is pretty good too.
Yeah, no, love all of it. But actually, sadly, I did see that. Did I see that Lester Holt or Keith Morrison is retiring? One of them. I saw something. One of them. All right. What's your favorite bad guy got caught story?
Oh. I think I probably will have to say Richie Ramirez. Just the fact that he was elusive for so long, and then it was his one footprint that tied his very specific pair of shoes to him, and then he was arrested by the citizens, which is the coolest thing to me.
Wait, what does that mean?
Like, citizens spotted him out and chased him down and like held on to him until the police got there.
Whoa.
And that's how he got caught.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your toxic true crime trait?
Toxic true
So
crime.
I'll give you an example.
Yes.
I mean, this one relates to me. I listen to murder podcasts to relax, or something like along those lines, like you find yourself doing, or like, like I have no stopping once I start talking about Bundy or any of something along those lines.
I think for me, it might be that it's the really, really brutal ones that get me the most excited. Andre Chikatilo is one of my favorites. Albert Fish, just kind of those extreme ones. But I would love to understand their psyche and what goes on in their mind and behavior,
Oh, totally. Actually, Martha, there's a book on the shelf down there, top shelf. It's called like Serial Killer Encyclopedia. I'm going to see if I have it here. I'm going to see if do you have that one? Maybe?
Yeah. One of them, at least.
If everyone listening right now had to watch one true crime murder doc, which one should they watch? That's
like
hard.
A recent one?
Sure.
That is hard. Gosh, I have way too many. The Gabby Petito one was pretty well done. That new one.
Oh, that one that just came out.
Yep, that one was well done. I'm a fan of Monster, Evan Peters as Jeffrey Dahmer. It's a fictionalized account. Obviously, it's not a documentary, but he does a great job, and they follow a lot of the autobiographical information given by both Jeffrey and his father Lionel. So they did a really good job with that one. I'm looking forward to the next one that comes out. Charlie Hunnam will be playing Ed Gein.
Ooh, okay. So you have I watch so many and then I like forget it. Like you like are like keeping these in a bank. I love it. Okay. If you had to try Get Away with Murder, this is not on my script, by the way. I just picked this from my head. What would your go-to be based on what you've watched?
Well, for one, you don't take your cell phone anywhere. That's
like a no
one.
shit. Yeah, okay. I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe should I be saying these things publicly for all to hear?
No, it might ruin it. You're right. Okay, well then I'll tell you, which I would definitely not do. I think that poisoning someone like always ends up showing up.
Yeah, it depends on the poison. Yeah.
Like I feel like they like typically find it, according to my shows. I think I would not kill someone related to a love triangle. I think it's just too obvious. It always is that not like every single Dateline? Like
yes.
like Presley grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, where nothing bad happened. A beautiful town, hills, only 2,000 people. Things got sinister when the love triangle bit back. I feel like it's always the same.
You sound like an ID intro.
I know. I'm telling you. One time in my improv class, someone came up to me and was like, I think that you could do voiceovers. Not for that, just in general. And I was like, I think I could do like Lester Holt stuff if I had to. If they needed me. Okay, what is your favorite completely unhinged, what the hell was their plan criminal? Like they're like just like come on, like that was so dumb.
Sarah Boon. Have you heard of Sarah Boon?
Maybe. The thing is I'm not good at like recalling.
Okay. So Sarah Boon, this happened in Florida, of course. She zipped her husband into a suitcase and then left him there overnight. And she tried to tell the cops that they were playing hide and seek. And she forgot him in the suitcase and she fell asleep. But there was like, she had recorded a video. She's slurring her words. You could tell she's drunk. She had recorded a video of the suitcase, and you could tell he's kind of trying to get out, and he's pleading with her, Sarah, let me out. This isn't funny. Let me out. And she just kind of mocks him and laughs and leaves him there to die. That one, I was like, and then she tried to, make up the story of they were playing hide and seek and it was an accident. And it's like, how can you even?
Like what?
Yeah.
Also, like, how did you get him in there in the first place? Like, it's not like an easy thing to fit someone in a suitcase.
No. So
they're like, let's role play tonight, baby. Your luggage. I
think that's what she was implying happened, that they were kind of messing around and put him in the suitcase and refused to let him out.
Let's pretend like you're my baggage that I carry. This is
right, exactly.
This is wild. Okay, this is I think we got to know you a little bit here. This is good. This is great. Now, I want to get into the meat of today's episode. And so just to start off, I want to know, you're a BCBA by day, like you work with individuals on the spectrum, I'm assuming, in a clinic?
Yep.
Okay, so that you're 9 to 5?
Yes.
Okay, so you're doing all the regular, like, insurance, determining the function, all the things, okay?
All those things, yeah.
And by night, what are you doing?
By night, I do many different things. So I also teach at North Dakota State University. I teach abnormal psych and intro to behavior mod.
Oh, nice.
And so that's my Tuesday, Thursday mornings job.
Okay.
And then I lead the special interest group through ABAI in forensic behavior analysis. So we meet monthly. We have gotten everything set up for the ABAI conference in Washington, D.C. We will be there conducting a panel discussion, as well as a few more activities. So that's exciting.
I want to make sure to attend that one. That sounds like juicy.
Yes.
ABAI this year is when? We're doing so many conferences this year. My head hurts.
It's always Memorial Day weekend, so it's like May 23rd through the 26th or something.
Okay. Got
End
it.
of May.
Okay.
And so I do the special interest group. I also do, with my special interest group members, we have formed a separate academic venture called the Crime and Behavior Analysis Academy. And we have been contracted. We are currently working on a criminal case
Wow.
as behavioral experts. So we are currently combing through discovery documents, interrogation videos, police reports to develop a behavioral profile for a case.
That is cool. So like an unsolved
Yeah.
case.
Yes, a current case. We're preparing for trial. So
Wow, I love that. Okay, so you're a busy girl.
yes, I also in Fargo, we have the sheriff's office has put together a threat assessment and threat management team. So I volunteer on that team. I'm the only behavioral specialist on the team. So I've been trained in threat assessment, reporting, and management through the Department of Homeland Security as well.
So what do you do for a threat assessment? What are you doing there?
So with the threat assessment team, we meet monthly and we discuss cases around the community, individuals who have made contact with law enforcement for threats, stalking, mental health issues, things like that. And then we look at, where does this individual fall on the pathway to violence? Is he more in the grievance side where he's just having some ideas about targeted violence, or is he actually planning this targeted violence? And then based on where they are on that pathway to violence, we can intervene wherever they are.
How do you feel that your understanding of behavior analysis benefits this group?
So I believe that my perspectives are very beneficial to the group. However, when I am in a room full of law enforcement who don't necessarily understand behavior analysis or behavior modification, you can get a little bit of pushback. There was a case we were discussing where I had actually recommended a behavioral contract with this individual. He had been removed from school and was upset that he wasn't going to get his degree. So I had come up with, hey, how about we write up a behavior contract with this individual? If he follows the behavior contract for a certain amount of time, he can earn that degree. And the resource officer for the university just shut me down immediately. No, we're not doing that. But then the trainer, the DHS worker who was training us, he came back and he said, that's an excellent idea and I love that. But we know that you got to get buy-in from those important individuals. And if you don't have it, there's not much you can do. So
how do you deal with that in general? Because I know, I'm saying even I know being a BCBA and then going into a classroom even, right? Where they might even have more an idea what a behavior analyst does. I imagine it's even harder somewhere where they have no idea what a behavior analyst is.
Yeah. And I have really only been able to sit down with one member of the group. And she was the FBI agent who really started forming this group. And I would love to be able to give a training to the group and say, hey, here's what I do. Here's what I know. Here's how I can help you. But I think there's definitely some, law enforcement tunnel vision where we don't see any other way but our way.
Right.
So I would like to help combat that, but baby steps.
Baby steps. You got to pair. Do a lot of pairing.
Yes. Yep.
A lot of pairing, a lot of kissing ass probably.
Yep.
You guys are just, yeah, that's what I imagine. Ugh, there's so many things I want to ask you. So what I think is really cool about this is, I'm leaving today for Connecticut to go present at CTABA, and I'm presenting on generalizing your behavior analytic skills outside of autism. Especially doing this podcast, I'm with people all the time who are doing such cool things. And I think a lot of people are always like, what can I do outside of the autism space? And I think you're a perfect example of that. Like, just in terms of, you're like, okay, I'm volunteering, doing, putting myself in this group or doing this. And it really does take showing like, hey, these are my individual skills that I could do.
Yeah.
Right. So for anyone, if you're listening to this, I mean, these are cool things to get involved in. So I just want to put that out there. Very cool.
Yes.
Something that we spoke a while ago, so we might need to come back to some things, which is fine because I want to fill the audience in anyways. Something that I remember that we spoke about. You studied the differences in brain scans between psychopaths and, I guess, typical individuals.
Non-psychopath.
No, like versus like a I don't know. Is there any such thing as a normal, but like a normal brain? What do you like? What
A neurotypical brain.
Neurotypical brain. Tell me what you saw.
So I actually have my book right here. This is, I actually wrote my master's thesis on this. This book is excellent. The Anatomy of Violence by Adrian Rain. He goes into all of it, but basically what is found is that psychopaths' brains are physically, structurally, and functionally different from non-psychopath brains. So we find that the connections in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex are not as strong. The amygdala does not respond the way it should. The insular cortex does not respond the way it should. And we can see this in comparative studies between individuals, neurotypical individuals and those with psychopathy. We can see that on scans. We can also see it in everyday life. So psychopaths' amygdalas are less responsive, which means they don't react emotionally like neurotypical individuals do. So that's why psychopaths have this low arousal level. That's why they're always seeking extreme things because they can't feel anything otherwise. So that's why they are engaging in risky behavior. They might be gambling. They might be spending lots of money. They might be having promiscuous sex. They might be using intravenous drugs. Basically, they don't have the same level of arousal as us, so they need to engage in extreme activities to get that same level.
So like correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the amygdala usually the like alert system of like fight, flight, or so like
Yes.
they're not getting there. Like it takes a lot of stimulation.
Correct. This is why many psychopaths, functional psychopaths, because you can be a functional psychopath, functional psychopaths will choose careers such as military, bomb defusers, neurosurgeons, all of these very, very intense, high stakes careers because that gets them excited. Nothing else does.
So like they've almost found like a DRA of like they like I think it's like if someone wants to be a murderer, they should be a butcher potentially. Something along those lines.
Yes. Yep. And I talk about that in some of my presentations. People ask me about treatment of psychopaths. And, treatment, you can't force treatment, for one. It's not going to be as effective if you don't have active participation of the client, right? And there's no MO there. They have no establishing operation to change. because what their behavior is doing is working for them, it is reinforcing to them, and they have no reason to change. So psychopathy is very, very difficult to treat because it's a biological condition. We cannot physically change the structure of their brains. We can attempt to hijack that reward system, that dopamine system, by incentivizing behavior change in selfish ways. Hey, if you change your behavior this way, you get this really good thing for you.
But
Theoretically.
But I
Go ahead.
imagine, like, what I'm thinking of here, I remember even like when I had like on the podcast a while ago, I remember like I had like an ex pimp on the podcast, right? And he like now is involved helping like get youth who are like, whether they're the ones actually like, doing the sex work on the street or the pimps, like trying to get them out of it now, right? He's like, do you know how hard it is to come? And these are not even talking about like psychopaths, right? So like, there's not even talking about like brain structure involved. It's like, do you know how hard it is getting someone off the street when they've been making, like, let's say a pimp has been making what, like $10,000 a day, and now you're trying to get him a regular job making $14 an hour? Like, you think that you're like, to get that level of reinforcement is so hard. So I imagine it's like, hey, psychopath, I know that you really get a nice rush, like torturing someone, raping them, and then murdering them. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, like, if you do this, I'll get you a Game Boy. It's like, huh?
Right? Like,
Oh, instead
it's
of
not.
doing this, you could cook this recipe. It's like, well, I was cooking humans, like, and not equal.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Where's the ego? We can't match that.
That's really hard.
Yes. Yep.
Is
I will say that when you brought up DRA, Dahmer, he attempted himself to find alternative behaviors before he escalated. He would take mannequins from stores and have them in his bed, in his closet, and he cuddled with them, which Dahmer said all he wanted was someone to cuddle with and someone to be with and to hold them. So he attempted to get that same satisfaction from a store mannequin. However, Grandma found it, got freaked out, and threw it out. So, I give him some credit. He tried.
so it's
He also
grandma's fault.
tried.
The blood lies on grandma.
Grandma was terrified. She was immensely religious, and I think she kind of probably knew about Dahmer's homosexuality, and so she saw that as an even deeper perversion, and it scared her. Yeah, it's a very sad situation all around.
Wow. Okay, so I want to, is there anything just, I'm genuinely curious for myself. The fact that we're actually seeing like brain differences in, let's say, a psychopath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that could be done on like not even on like let's say like a behavior level? Like that's a very hard to find like a competing reinforcer, like again, Sour Patch Kids are not equal. Like, I mean, even if you, that first of all, that wouldn't be matching the function. I mean, especially even in general, let's talk about not psychopaths. Okay. You're working with a kid in a clinic. If the function is automatic or sensory, it is so hard to find anything competing already.
Yes.
So like now we're talking about someone who already like is lacking, like to get that level of stimulation, they have to do something that extreme. So like behaviorally, I'm a radical behaviorist, but like I'm just like I'm willing to say maybe that wouldn't, like, is there anything we could do to actually to the brain itself to not
there may
behaviors.
be.
We stay in our lanes. We're ethical. Don't worry. But I'm saying,
There may be, there are invasive brain procedures that are done, things like deep brain stimulation, ECT, TMS.
lobotomies.
I don't. Yes. Yep.
Okay, no one
The-
cancel me. I'm kind of kidding, kind of not. I don't know.
We probably wouldn't want to lobotomize a psychopath because their prefrontal cortex is already not
Oh, I guess I don't know enough
ideal.
about like where they're lobotomizing. Never mind. I just was okay. Yeah, keep going.
Scoop it up. But there could potentially be, I don't know about research for those types of procedures and psychopathy specifically, but I do know that it's not always nature. Yes, psychopaths have fundamentally different brains, but that is not a death sentence. In fact, there's an excellent book called The Psychopath Inside by James Fallon, and he is a neuroscientist who was looking through some fMRI scans of psychopaths. And he pulls the next one onto his desk and he looks at it and he says, "Yep, this is the brain of a psychopath." And then he realized that the name at the top was his own. So he has the brain of
Wow.
a psychopath, but is not a psychopath. So that book goes really deeply into the environmental factors that can contribute to the development of psychopathy. Everything is always both nature and nurture. One phrase that I really like to use is genetics loads the gun, the environment pulls the trigger.
So essentially, you're saying that I'm going to try to make this behavioral for anyone studying for their test. We have like that phylogenic part there, right? That's like you're born with whatever it is. Like there's more likelihood if you do have whatever like genetic traits. However, it's that
Yes.
ontogenic piece of like environmental conditions. So there is something that can be done.
Yes.
Assuming we intervene fast enough, we find the correct function,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes. And I love those cases. I get kids, whose parents come in and they're like, "Is my kid a psychopath?"
I've
He
had that
laughs when
question from so many parents, like different, it's crazy at different times. They're like, my kid literally like kicks the dog like consistently. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and at first, and it's just crazy, by the way, like once you become a parent, suddenly it's like, fuck, my kid kicks the dog too.
Yeah, we do not have a bunch of little psychopaths running
Yeah,
around.
no.
I actually, another part of my training that I've given, I've talked about what my colleague refers to as the autism psychopathy spectrum, but it's really an empathy spectrum. So if we look at psychopathy, they have empathy deficits. Okay, they are not able to engage in what we call affective resonance empathy.
Right.
There's two types of empathy. We have affective resonance, which is the ability to look at someone's face and their situation and know cognitively what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have cognitive perspective taking, which is more abstract, and that involves abstract thought of, if I were to say this thing to this person, I know how they would respond. So, with autism, we find that many individuals with autism are extremely high in affective resonance empathy. We can see if someone is struggling, we can empathize with that. Some individuals with autism might have social skill deficits that keep them from knowing what to do about that.
Right.
It's not that we do not empathize, it's that we don't know how to help.
Okay. That makes sense.
On the flip side, psychopaths have very low affective resonance, okay? But their cognitive perspective taking empathy is extremely high. And the reason for that is because that is a requirement for manipulating other people. You have to be able to know how someone is going to respond to something you do or say in order to manipulate them.
Wow. So I just want to summarize that and that difference. So the empathy part, I mean, there's multiple diagnoses, right? That could have that, doesn't necessarily mean a psychopath, right? That could have that empathy piece. Like even if you look at like true like narcissistic personality disorder, right? That's another empathy piece. So what differentiates a psychopath versus someone with another diagnosis, such as autism or narcissistic personality disorder, from a psychopath? Did I you might have just said that and I missed it.
So typically we differentiate antisocial personality disorder from psychopathy. The way I phrase it, that I think is the easiest, is that all psychopaths have antisocial personality disorder, but not all antisocials have psychopathy.
Okay.
Does that
Yes. There's these things in life that come, like, I remember we're like, I was teaching this in my class the other day and I can't think what it was. It was like, all tandem schedules are this, but not all this are tandem schedules. You know, like, it's like, and then you have to like take a second and think about it. But no, what you just said makes, yes, that makes sense. Now talking about this, and by the way, anyone listening, do not get upset. We're not saying that individuals with autism are psychopaths. We're talking about the differences. You have to like, I just want you to know, when you do anything and you put yourself out there publicly, you have to like say it 3 times just to make sure, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I've already been accosted by someone about that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I re-explain that, it's like I'm not talking about autism and psychopathy. The root is the empathy.
Right.
Both of these diagnoses, we see differences in empathy.
Right. No, I got you. Don't worry. I'm not canceling you. I like you. Don't worry. Okay.
Fabulous. It is much harder to get rid of an intact body than it is to get rid of multiple small body parts. Mm-hmm. The point of this was he wanted to evade capture. He needed to figure out how to do that. Dahmer himself actually talked about how hard it was to pulverize and dissolve those bones, which he then put down the drain in his grandma's house. He said it was one of the hardest things he's ever done.
She must have quite the garbage disposal.
Right. Maybe it was willful ignorance, red flags everywhere.